All right, welcome to the All Access Entertainment Podcast. I am your host, Joseph Bruen, and this week we have Mr. Tommy Twos himself, Thomas Hernandez from the Basement of Champions, and here he is. Welcome to the show.
Joe, thank you again for having me. This is the second round, and I am very honored, as I was the first time, to be a part of this podcast, and I'm really excited to talk wrestling with you and talk a little bit about my collection and yours as well.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. And obviously, yes, this is indeed part two. We've got a lot more to touch on and some great pieces. And I think the fans are really going to appreciate some of the stuff that they hear and some of the stuff that they see on this episode. So let's dig right into it. You have a wonderful piece. It's an original WWF promo photo, and it's dual signed by the natural disasters, Earthquake and Typhoon. That's a piece that you just don't see often, any type of piece with both of their signatures on it. Never mind an original promo. This may actually be the only instance where I've seen a natural disasters promo with both SIGs. So let's take a look at that and tell us the whole story about it.
Sure. Okay. So this is the promo. This is dual signed by Typhoon and Earthquake. There's Earthquake's signature and Typhoon, and that is JSA certified. I got really lucky with this promo. I was just happened to be searching the Facebook pages, the memorabilia pages, and Mikey Blanton was selling it for a rather low price. He had told me the backstory on it. He had told me that the person that he acquired from had gotten this signed by Earthquake personally. He had gone to a house show, and he had some backstage access, and he was able to get this signed by Earthquake. Fast forward to when he sold it to Mikey Blanton. Mikey had sent this to, I believe it was Captain's Corner, who had Typhoon on for a live virtual. And Mikey informed me, he said, when Typhoon saw that promo, his eyes just lit up like, wow, I can't believe that. And he recognized his brother in the tag team world signature right away. Mikey was, as he usually is, on the hustle. So he was selling it, and I picked it up as soon as I had the chance. And I actually was the one that brought it in to be certified. So now it sits in the exhibition collection in the Basement of Champions. And there is again. I have yet to see another original promo with Earthquake and Typhoon on it. This is the only one that I've seen in the years that I've been collecting. I'm sure there's another one out there that exists somewhere, but it's yet to come to market.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly a rare scenario there to have both of them on one piece. So congrats on that, and thank you for showing that off for sure.
Absolutely,
now,
man.
Yeah. Part one, we spoke about a lot of the other, during COVID, there were a lot of virtuals, and we talked about the different, T-Mart promotions and Auction Andrew and all the different ones that were kind of popping up and gave the fans opportunities to pick up some pieces like that. So now let's talk about some of the collectors themselves that you've gotten to know over the years since COVID. And, who are some of the ones that you've become friendly with over the years? Let's call them out. Let's hear those names,
Sure. Yeah, well, I just spoke about him. I could talk about Mikey Blanton, Rooster House, probably one of my most knowledgeable on WCW, ECW, WWF early days, and he himself is being a promoter for Black Label Pro. He's just constantly got his finger on the pulse of the memorabilia market of wrestling in general. He became a really good friend of mine during COVID, and actually he started to do auctions. I think around 2023 was when he started to really buckle down and do auctions. And now I think he's doing like 2 or 3 successful auctions a week. His auctions are really famous in the memorabilia community. He's an admin for the Tommy Two's Basement of Champions memorabilia page, and just a great guy. He's got a wonderful wife, Jessica, 2 beautiful children that he adopted, and he's a great dad, great friend. He checks up on me once in a while. I check up on him once in a while, and we've done plenty of business together. We've had some trades that have gone to the boiling point and backed off because we're both that passionate about our pieces. I love talking to him just as much as I love talking to you about wrestling. He's an encyclopedia, definitely an amateur wrestling historian such as yourself, and just a great all-around person to be around.
Awesome.
That's Mikey. Danny Deck, who's also a moderator for the Tommy Two's Basement of Champions memorabilia page, fellow veteran and current and a hero. He is such a fascinating man. He spent many years in the military, got out recently, and his collection of ring-worn memorabilia is second to none. He brings a certain aspect of discipline and rigid truth to the memorabilia community. He's really good at sniffing out those scammers, which I'm sure you've encountered them as I have. Those folks that are really just throwing pieces up there to try to get some money out of poor, unsuspecting collectors or vendors. And he's just really great at going into the queue and sending those scammers out the door. Zachary Mumbles, he's also a moderator for Tommy Two's Basement of Champions memorabilia page. I got a chance to fly out to Illinois for a convention to meet all 3 of them. And they didn't know I was coming. I actually bought a luchador mask, and I packed it in my luggage, and I got a hotel room, and I wore the luchador mask to the convention, and I surprised them by going up to them with the luchador mask and asking them if I could take a picture. So I have pictures of myself with them without them knowing that it's actually me. And then I unmasked myself, and they were all extremely surprised. But those 3 men, they volunteered their time every day to keep that memorabilia page up and running. And I'm very grateful for those 3. Knowing them in the community, no matter what community you're in, Joe, I feel like it's tough to find people you trust.
Yeah.
I think those 3 are at the top of my list for people, friends that I've met. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention yourself. I don't know how in depth I can go with this, but our conversations, they have just drifted from amazing impersonations by you of Paul Bearer and The Undertaker, exchanging trivia questions, going over current pay-per-view PLE events, asking how you liked it, what you thought, what your thought process was, and analyzing today's product versus yesterday's product. And the stuff that you share with me, the promos, the original promos that you share with me, I take time and care to look at each one and admire each one, because I know they've already passed your sniff test. So I love looking at those, knowing that they are actual pieces of valid memorabilia and beauties to add to your collection. Anytime I bugged you, the million times that I bugged you for, questions about original promos, questions about authentic autographs, you always had time for me. I remember sending you my original Hulk Hogan 1987 promo signed that I wanted to confirm was an original. First, really, I think, couple of months that I even knew you, and I had a little worry of sending that promo out in the mail to somebody I really didn't know. But you received it, you inspected it, you gave me your analyzation, and it happened to be an original promo, which is great. It's still in my collection, and you sent it back perfectly wrapped. And you're up there on that list for me of folks that I trust and have a memorabilia wrestling style of care and an admiration for in this profession. A couple of honorable mentions. You got Auction Andrew. Andrew Kala has done he's helped me immensely add to my collection a good deal of the original promos in the Basement of Champions collection came from Auction Andrew during his live events during COVID and even a little bit after. Marty T. Mart D'Amato, I mean, the guy is just a foot soldier for the memorabilia community, for the wrestling community, with his time, putting his time and donating his time in putting together the gathering, putting together the Marty Party. He's got his own little federation of wrestlers now. So he's also a great friend. He invited me to his home multiple times. Many of the signatures that I have on my poster came. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. Came from Marty's guests during his virtuals. And I got a chance to meet them one-on-one during COVID. He just said, come on over. I would bring him a 6-pack of Heineken, and I would be sitting at a table having lunch with Axe and Smash, shooting the shit.
It's a good trade-off for a 6-pack.
Yeah, it was amazing to me. And he was just so welcoming and caring, and he's fallen out of love with the current product, which many of the old school wrestling fans have, but in the way that he memorializes and keeps frozen the sanctity and the kayfabe of the old product, more than makes up for us not being able to talk about the current product.
Yeah.
There's a lot more, and I can't really think off the top of my head. Just a lot of great people in the hobby that deserve accolades that I'm probably forgetting.
Yeah, for me, early on, some of the OGs that I still communicate with, they're like extended family, like yourself. And, I talk to them on a regular basis. Ryan Reist, he's an OG. He's from Canada, and he's what I would call another expert for sure. He's been doing this for a long, long time, and he has a vast collection, very large promo photo collection. He only collects original promos. So whenever he adds something, he'll let me know, and whenever I add something, I'll let him know. We'll kind of update each other, and we enjoy talking about the collections and original promos. And so he's always been a great friend, overseas there, and he's one that you can trust 100%. You never have to worry about if he's ever selling anything.
Yeah.
He's one, definitely go for it. It's original. It's authentic if it's coming from Ryan Reese. Another one is Mike Ford. He's considered the godfather of promo photos. And, I was right there neck and neck with him for a little while there, but he is definitely the largest collection, I would say, that I know of. Mike Ford's got, I think he said, over 3,000 original promo photos. And that includes, territories and WWF and WCW, and he's got WWE and just tons, but especially P Series. He's got a vast collection of P Series promos. We've done some great trades over the years. I've purchased from him. He's purchased from me. He is a huge collector of the 80s specifically. He loves the 80s. So whenever there's a 80s promo photo that he doesn't have, which is rare, but it happens, when it pops up, he has to get it. It doesn't matter. You're not going to win against Mike Ford. So, it's like, just let Mike do his thing. He's taking it. He's taking it home. So
Mike, I had a chance to speak at length with Mike, and yeah, absolutely. Just a beacon of knowledge in the promo community and a really great guy just to talk wrestling with.
Yeah. And Mike started his promo collecting in 1999, the early days of eBay when it came to promo photos, when people weren't looking for promos on eBay, he was buying them up on eBay. And, he got in there when they were, pennies on the dollar. And now it's just crazy what he has. And, he's got such, like I said, such a vast collection. But yeah, Mike Ford is truly an expert. Let's talk a little bit about promo photos as far as personalization. Mike is actually the one that taught me how to remove a personalization. So when it comes to signatures, he's basically introduced me to PEC 12, which is a solution. It's almost like a nail polish remover, similar smell. And then they also have PEC 12 pads as well. And, that whole process is really pretty simple. If it's something that's, to Mike, well, chances are you're not going to want it as much as it says to Tom. You know what I mean? So, and when it comes to removing it, you can't do it on every promo photo. If it's on a card stock, you're not going to be able to successfully take it off. So if you're removing a signature, it's got to be glossy. It's got to be that, that photo paper. It'll just wipe right off, basically. You have to kind of go in like a circular motion with your hand and keep pushing to the edges as you're wiping that ink off, and just continue to do so. Keep pushing it out until you get to the very edge, and then you're just wiping it off at that point, right off of the edge, and eventually that whole signature is gone, and it's like it never happened. And so it is nice if you're one that, some people that doesn't bother at all if there's a personalization, which is fine. But some people prefer to just have the signature if it's not, not theirs originally. So it's nice that PEC 12 is an option if you have a glossy photo and you want to remove that. And once you do it a couple times, it might seem overwhelming, like, oh my gosh, I don't want to damage this. But once you do it a few times, it actually becomes quite easy to do so.
Yeah, I actually took your advice on the PEC 12 a couple of years ago. I had acquired a very, very rare WCW Ravishing Rick Rude error promo. It actually printed in error. You can see it sort of looks pixely, but it's definitely original. It's got some odd printing marks. And I took your advice on the PEC 12. I used the PEC 12 to remove the personalization on it. And I got to tell you, I regretted it. It worked. It worked exactly like you said it would. But one is when I held it up to the light, I guess due to the age of the ink, I could still see the removal mark of the personalization, which, by the way, JSA included on my letter of authenticity, that there has been a personalization removed from this item. Now, if a collector is looking for an item that's not personalized, this really isn't going to matter to them. But after I did that, I started to sort of embrace the personalizations for two reasons. One, it does provide, in a lot of cases, a little additional provenance. In a world where we're suffering through scammers, we're suffering through forgers, we're suffering through, people that are trying to just get a quick buck. There's some extra writing on there, especially if that wrestler is passed away. I'm going to take that extra writing and actually I feel it adds to the provenance of the actual piece. And two is, that extra writing is something that can never be written again by that wrestler in a lot of cases. So I feel like it's almost erasing a little bit of that wrestler's equity. I have a lot of pieces that are personalized now. The glossy promos I found are really few and far between. I think I saw a lot more in the 80s than I did in the 90s. I don't know if you've seen that. I saw a lot more cardstock in the 90s.
Oh, yeah. They transitioned to mostly cardstock, although the early to mid 90s, there are several black and white photos that are glossy photo paper.
Yeah. So I don't have many from the 80s. Most of my collection is from the mid 90s to the 2000s, and typically cardstock. I do have some 80s, but most of them are even cardstock now that I think of it. But for me, personalization, I love it. I'm happy with it. Even if I have to call myself Mike, I don't mind. I love it. Yeah.
And usually the promo photos, they're considered in some cases an A, a B, sometimes even a C. When it comes to Men on a Mission P series, they have 3 or 4 different ones, and they're actually listed as A, B, and C. So it's kind of cool to see something like that, and when you see that there are so many options, do you personally get excited about that? Like, oh man, now I'm on the hunt to try to find them? Or on the other scope of things, you get overwhelmed and you're like, you know what? I don't need all of them. How does your brain react to seeing that?
I am not the promo aficionado that you would categorize in the same category as a Mike Ford, whereas I'm looking to collect them all. My eye typically moves towards signed original promos. The P series, I love the P series. I love the clarity of the P series. I do have some old 80s promos down there, but as far as, collecting them numerically, that's never been a focus of my collection. Although that's something that I have been considering moving towards in the future. Probably an expensive venture nowadays. But I have considered moving towards possibly trying to collect something similar to what Mike Ford has in his spreadsheet, where I can get P001, which I believe is the Ultimate Warrior, all the way down to the last P series, Natalia. To have that whole collection, my goodness, would be fantastic. But the A, the B, the C, the only experience I think I have with that is I think I have a Stone Cold Steve Austin P series that I believe is a B. And it's the one that has his pre-printed autograph on it. And that's the only one that I could get my hands on because Stone Cold was having his first signing, and everybody was rushing to find one. And I found that one, and I had that one sent in and signed. But that's the only real experience I have with the subcategories of the P series promos.
And for the hobby itself, how do you feel that it's come along from when you fast forward after not just being a fan, but once you got into the hobby, from when you first got into the hobby around COVID to where we are now? Your personal
well, my personal take take is, I think we have the new regime over at the WWE, and even the the tail end of that old regime to thank for their continued growth in their current product, creating new fans. I just think they're doing a fantastic job of staying relevant, of paralleling themselves to anything that is trending, and scooping up new fans along the way. That wonderful show that they had, WWE Treasures on A&E, that was a huge help for the memorabilia community. Folks didn't even know that they wanted to collect until they saw that show. So that's the first thing that comes to mind, is to thank Triple H and TKO and Vince McMahon for continuing to, keep that flame going, keeping it strong, and growing the product the way that it needs to be grown. Pricing out some of your middle of the road fans is a small price to pay. I'm one of those middle of the road fans. I can't really afford to go to a live event anymore, but I think that's one of the sacrifices that we as fans have to make, to hand that product over to those folks who are turning it into a higher level of entertainment. So when I first started in 2020, when I first started collecting, as the prices were much, much different. They were much lower. You could catch a Hulk Hogan autograph for $100. Stone Cold was rare. Chris Benoit was extremely rare, and all of a sudden he's popped up all over the place. But you could get cool little WWF trinkets from the past, like little pens or T-shirts or little beepers. I have a binder downstairs that has Hogan, Jake, Macho, and Warrior on it. That's where I keep some of my promos. That was just a cool little pickup on eBay for I think it was $10. Today I saw that same binder on eBay for $100. So as somebody who started collecting in 2020, I'm certainly happy with the way the market has moved. Price wise, it's gone up. My stuff that I've collected, the value has gone up. And, when I first started collecting, my main focus was to make that basement a tribute to my heroes growing up, to my role models growing up. And somewhere along the line, up until today, it did turn into a small side hustle. Some people have made offers on my pieces, and I've accepted some of those offers. It was never my intention to start selling any of my pieces. But it has gotten to the point where people are seeking out these higher end pieces and making very, very lucrative offers on these pieces, because they know they're never going to get them again in a lot of cases. And it's showed itself true to be that these pieces are going to continue to increase in value as the years continue to pass. Very much like as if you had a wine cellar down the basement. Every single year that passes, that wine gets sweeter and sweeter, while the Basement of Champions ages in the same way as a fine wine cellar. So the memorabilia community, to me, it's growing. We've got, you're going to get 10% bad apples, I think, in any community. And as you continue to grow your community, that 10% gets to be a larger amount. The quantity gets to be larger. So, to the new folks that are coming in, to the collectors today, I always tell all the folks in my memorabilia page, make sure you are, getting references, make sure you're paying in a manner in which you can, make a report and get your money back in case something happens. To stay safe out there now is much more important than it was back in 2020. To me, but all in all, to answer your question in a shorter fashion, I love the way that the community's grown. The new people that are coming in are great. The old people that are still here are great. And I just love that we all share that same love for professional wrestling, and we can actually share that love through that memorabilia.
Sure. Now you've got some more great pieces that we're going to show off momentarily. Before we get that, you said you had a few questions from me as well. So maybe if you wanted to get one of those in now, we can.
Joe, I do. I have a lot of questions for you that I think the memorabilia community would love to know more about you. Could you maybe talk a little bit about your relationship with Howard Finkel and how that came to be and how it manifested over the years? And maybe give us a little taste of that impression, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah. I mean, Howard Finkel was somebody that I always looked up to. I was a ring announcer for 10 years myself, and I ring announced all over the New England area. So, I kind of got into the whole communications aspect of things, primarily being inspired by Howard. So I had my own talk show at 16 years old for Cox Cable. I'm bringing wrestlers into the studio and doing interviews. I'm on the road with their camera equipment and, doing backstage interviews at all the local promotions with independent talent, with the stars that were on the show. And, it was just always a passion for me. Even as a kid, when I was playing with the wrestling figures, I was a big Hasbro guy. It wasn't even about the match per se as a kid. It was all about the entrance. And I would try to emulate Howard Finkel's voice. I would have the entrance music, this big extravagant entrance. And then, okay, I'll have a match after that, but it's going to be quick because we got to do the next entrance. You know what I mean? So that's how it was playing with the figures as a kid for me. And I mean, some people look up to a lot of the athletes and stuff, but I always looked up to Howard. So ring announcing and announcing in general, interviewing, all of that came from, that passion came from my love for what Howard did and for him doing it and the way that he did it. And fast forward many years, I met him a few times as a fan, at the back of arenas or wherever it may be growing up. And he was always super personable, always, took a picture with me, just very nice. Probably met him 3 or 4 times over the years, all different eras. And fast forward 2010, I went to a dinner that was honoring Chief Jay Strongbow. It was in New Jersey. I believe it was Pompton Plains, New Jersey. And it was just a special dinner. Chief Jay was there. It was being run by the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. At the time, they were based out of Amsterdam, New York. But again, this was in New Jersey. Angelo Savaldi was there. Tommy Savaldi, Mario Savaldi, Pretty Boy Larry Sharp, Ray Apollo as Doink the Clown. Dawn Marie was there. WWF referee Billy Caputo, the unpredictable Johnny Rods. So you had a great, vast group of talent. Mick Foley was there. And Howard Finkel was the MC. And that was one of the big reasons I wanted to go. I was like, wow, Howard Finkel's MCing that. At that time, he wasn't really doing anything outside of WWE. That was pretty rare. So my buddy Steve and I, we made the trip from Rhode Island to Jersey. It was probably about 4 hours. And we get there. Mick Foley's doing a hardcore yard sale, is what he called it. And it was all personal belongings of Mick Foley in a separate room. Literally a big light up snowman or Santa Claus, that was on his front lawn for Christmas, wrapped in barbed wire. And, baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire, photos, just all kinds of stuff. And that was kind of cool to kick off the day. And then once we were done with that, we go on into the banquet. Everybody's mingling. You get to kind of mingle with all the stars that I mentioned. Howard Finkel was the first one we saw. He's standing up against the wall, talking to a fan, and he's kind of greeting people as they're walking in. And he greeted my buddy Steve and I, and he was like, "Hello, where are you guys coming from?" And we were like, Rhode Island and Massachusetts. And He's like, well, you must know about the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. And that was unbelievable because, I founded the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, something that I founded. My idol is asking me if I'm familiar with it. And, he had no idea that it was me that did that. So I was literally speechless. My buddy Steve had to speak up and fill that void of me just kind of staring, wondering what I'm going to say next. And Steve was like, this is the guy who runs that, and Howard was just so pumped. I mean, he was talking about his love for New England wrestling, the New England scene. It's such a strong history. And, he was discovered at a theater in Connecticut himself. And, it ended up, it was almost time for the dinner banquet. So he's like, Joe, do you mind if I join you? And I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, come on, my idol wants to sit down for dinner, of course. So he joins us, and, he got up throughout the night to do his MC work, and he'd always come back down, sit with us. And during the times where we could talk, whether it be dinner or dessert, he was just story after story, memory after memory, just going on. And it was amazing to hear all of that stuff coming out of Howard, because it was just endless, and it was, he was so passionate about it, and we ended the night with Howard saying, if there's any way I could host the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, if you'd have me, I would absolutely love to do it. He was offering his services, and I'm like, just blown away. And
wow.
So of course I took him up on that offer. And the next year, 2011, I brought him in as a super ticket guest at my fan fest in the morning. And then he hosted the Hall of Fame that evening. And I was nervous. I mean, this is a big deal for me. And it's Howard Finkel, you know what I mean? And he's still full-time with the WWE at this point. Actually, he was still full-time with the WWE until his final days. He was employed right to the end. Vince McMahon took care of everything, his arrangements and stuff when he had passed away, from what I hear, which is great that they honored him like that. But, we had about 10 years of friendship, and it started off with correspondence, the emails coming in, the phone calls, and you'd see Titan Towers or Titan Sports come up on the caller ID. You knew it was Howard Finkel. And, in the early days there, he would leave these messages if I wasn't around, and they were just so funny, because the way you see him talking on television is the way Howard talked in real life. I mean, that's just how he spoke. That was his cadence. And he would be like, Joe, this is Howard Finkel with the World Wrestling Entertainment. And he would leave that message, and it was so detailed. It's currently 11:04 this morning, and if you could just give me a call, Joe, when time allows. And I would hear these messages, and it's just surreal. And after a while, you kind of take it for granted. You're like, oh, it's Howard, my buddy, but you have to step aside and think about it and just be like, man, like, I can't believe that this is actually where we're at. Howard Finkel is a friend. I can call him a friend. And that's exactly what he was. He was, he would offer comp tickets to my family and I. He would give us 4 comp tickets every time. And, whenever they came to Boston or Worcester or Providence or Mohegan Sun, he would give me 4 tickets. Joe, 4 tickets at will call for you. And, and, I'd pick up the envelope. It would say Howard 4. And I still have a lot of those envelopes. And he was just so generous, doing that. I'd bring family. Sometimes I'd bring friends. And, and that went on for almost 10 years. And then, of course, he was with us, full time. I mean, he was at all the fan fests, hosting the Q&A sessions for me. He was hosting the Hall of Fame ceremony every year, brought him back again, 2013, 14, 15. And just to work with him so closely was just so much fun and just a pleasure. Funny story with Howard Finkel. He had clothes from his girlfriend at the time for I guess they were clothes from her daughter, and she had outgrown them, so he was like basically passing them down to my children, my daughters, and he brought a huge. They were in a big black bag, almost like a trash bag, and they're all neatly folded, and it was just this big bag. And he's like, Joe, I have the clothes for you. I was like, oh, thank you so much, Howard. I'm like, that's, you didn't have to do that, honestly. And it's the middle, I want to say it was the middle of the day, or maybe right as doors are about to open for my fan fest. And this is at the Crown Plaza in Warwick. Howard Finkel's in his tuxedo, walking around the parking lot looking for his car. And, it's got 3,000 parking spaces roughly, or 2,000 parking spaces. And the place is packed, for the fan fest. And he's just going in between the cars, looking around. And I'm right behind him. We have this like big push cart that we got from inside the hotel because he wants me to, take the bag. And it was just funny, and then we finally found the car, got the big bag on there. We're bringing it back into the hotel. I'm going to put it at the front desk, and they're going to hold it for me so I can, go back to the fan fest. And as I'm coming in, a fan jokes, oh, Howard, Joe's got you doing everything around here. They thought he was emptying the trash or something, because he had the big bag. Yeah. And it was just funny, Howard and I walking all over the parking lot looking for it. And then the joke, and Howard thought it was funny. He chuckled after that,
But, that was funny.
Yeah. But yeah, just being friends with him for all those years,
Greatest ring announcer that will ever step into the ring, in my opinion. No matter who else steps into the ring, he is just always going to be the voice of my generation. And I believe, I guess as anyone does for their generation, that he is the greatest of all time, ring announcer wise.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the best to do it. And he was responsible for getting me Chief Jay Strongbow for my fan fest. He was responsible for the surprise appearance we had with Bob Backlund. He was really setting up a lot of things there for me, and yeah, he was fantastic. And I was honored that he considered me such a good friend, that he called me. Well, let me rewind a little bit. 2017 is when he became ill. So 2017, he's signing autographs at Rhode Island Comic Con, and he knew that I had a passion for interviewing, and he also knew that I always wanted to interview him, and he was not one to really do interviews. If you go on YouTube, there's a few over the years, very rare that he does interviews, because he was full-time with WWE. He never wanted to be, he was so loyal to them. So he didn't want to be put in a position where maybe a controversial question comes up or something that puts them in a negative light. He doesn't want to be a part of that. So he just doesn't do interviews. So he sees me at Comic-Con 2017, and he comes up to me. He's like, Joe, you wanted to do that interview with me. Let's do it today. And I was like, whoa, because that was, I don't know. I wasn't prepared to hear that. I was just like, I wasn't expecting that. Of course I was, I was ready. I was excited. I didn't have to write anything down. It's Howard Finkel, it was, but yeah, that really, I was like, wow, Howard wants to do an interview. That's rare. I mean, it's just strange that he wants to do one all of a sudden. Let's do it. So I do the interview with him, and I love it. It's on my YouTube page. It went about 15 minutes. There were some things that he couldn't answer. It seemed like maybe he was a little forgetful. And I did think that was kind of strange. I thought that, he seemed a little not himself, And I remember telling my mom that night, because I would always give her the rundown, how Comic-Con went and that sort of thing, or I'm on the phone with my mom, and I told her, yeah, Howard, I finally got to interview him, something I've always wanted to do. And she knew that. I was like, but he just seemed, I don't know. He seemed like something was up. It just seemed off, And then come to find out, he was already sick at that time, and I didn't know that. But I sensed that something was wrong. And he called me at the house not long after that to inform me of his illness and what his illness was. And we had a nice conversation, and he, just basically told me what the diagnosis was, and that he was going to be, stay positive and fight the good fight. And that was it was tough because I couldn't, I would never have said anything, obviously, and I didn't, and I couldn't say anything. And come to find out later on, nobody knew, even some of his other close friends, J.J. Dillon, they had no idea. So I had everybody always asking me because they knew I was close with Howard. And I would always just no sell it, oh, I'm not too sure, but it was so hard. Everybody's asking me. And I just thought it was so telling, that all these other legends in the business that are close with him don't even know, yet he called me to tell me. So that meant a lot to me.
That's amazing.
Without a doubt, and the only thing I regret is I was supposed to visit him at the facility that he was at, and I should have just done it as its own trip. It was about, 3 hours from me. But I said, well, I'm going that way anyway. And I forgot why. It might have been a convention or something, in a month or whatever it was. I said, I'll stop by there on the way back. It'll be perfect. And he passed away before that happened. And that was the worst part because, I don't know. I just feel like, a lot of people did visit him that were close to him, and I just, I don't know. I didn't want it to seem like I didn't want to visit. Of course I did. You know what I mean? But I didn't go. And, so that was kind of rough. You still think about that every once in a while to this day.
If you would have said, that's 3 hours away, I'm not going to go. Then maybe you should have some regrets. But I think since you had it on your itinerary, which is a really smart thing to do, is to, kill two birds with one stone. And, that's a long drive. 3 hours is a long drive. And I know Howard knew that. The intention was there. Your care for you and your love for your friend was there. That wasn't absent. So this was really just a matter of, coincidence that you just didn't happen to make it before he passed away.
But the nice thing about that is, during that time, we had a Hall of Fame ceremony that he was scheduled to host. So this would have been 2018. But obviously I had found out he was ill. So he called me again, after he told me that he had become ill, because even when he initially called me, he said, you know what, I'm still going to, try to be there for the event, because he still wanted to do everything that he loved. You know what I mean? And sure. I said, Howard, don't worry about it. And he said, no, I'm going to try to be there. And obviously he couldn't because he became sicker. But we ended up honoring him at the Hall of Fame ceremony at that event that he was supposed to, be a part of. And we had the plaque. I shipped it out there to him. I think I shipped it to his girlfriend at the time. And his final picture, Howard's last picture that was ever posted, I think Tommy Dreamer posted it because Tommy had taken a picture with him at that facility. And you can see the Hall of Fame plaque on the windowsill. Oh, wow. Nicely displayed right behind them. And I was like, great. Wow, it was the kind of like, I felt like I was kind of there in a sense.
You know were? I mean? Let me ask you a question, Joe. If you didn't have that convention to go to in that next month, would you have taken that 3-hour drive just to visit him?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So there you go. I mean, that's where your spirit was. That's where your soul was. That should alleviate some regret for you because you wanted to see your friend in his last days. I think that's a beautiful thing.
Right. And at that time, like I said, I think he said he was given maybe 5 years to live or something like that with the illness. And if I remember correctly, this was like maybe 2 years in or something like that. So, I just figured, I'll see him on the way back, but it's not how it turned out. But like I said, it was nice to see that plaque on the windowsill after the fact.
Switching gears, I have another question for you. And it's probably the most important question for the new collectors and the collectors in the memorabilia community. It's something that I lose sleep over, and I know it's a bottleneck for new collectors coming into the original promo community. And you've gone over this with me a couple of times, and I'm hoping that there's something new for you to tell me about this. But what advice would you give to somebody who is trying to crack into the original promo community to avoid buying copies and to ensure that they're getting actual original promo photos so that they're not building a collection based on lies? There's so many great printing options out there today. There's so many ways to duplicate these pictures and in such amazing quality. So could you just enlighten us a little bit on what are some of the steps a new collector can take so that they don't get duped by somebody trying to pass off a copy as an original?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I think initially when they first get in, they have to stay off eBay. They can't go on eBay. There are too many fakes on eBay, and if you're a new collector going into that sea of promo photos, you're going to get lost quick. You're going to get swallowed. It's just not, there's no getting around it. You know what I mean? And if you don't know what to look for, you're going to end up spending a lot of money and on fakes. So I think the best advice would be to join a group. Join a bunch of groups, get as many groups going, just kind of lay low for a little while, kind of watch what's going on, see the comments, see the posts, see who appears to know what they're talking about, maybe pick the minds of those people, send them a private message, hey, and just kind of ask about certain promos just to kind of gauge it, and maybe do that for a month or two, so you kind of know who within the community has a good reputation, people support, that sort of thing. And then once you establish that, obviously when you're talking to those people, they can steer you in the right way as far as who on eBay is reputable, and you could start to purchase on eBay easily, because there are a lot of reputable sellers on eBay as well mixed in. And then you could obviously buy direct from the groups, from those people that you start to build a trust with. But I think that's the best way, is just don't go blind into eBay, which normally that's what somebody would do because that's the most accessible, that's where you go for that sort of thing. But in recent years, there are so many people just copying off of Image Event, and they'll just take picture after picture after picture, and it's terrible. And then the problem with that also is that when it gets in the hands of those new collectors, if they do a trade or if they end up selling one of those, and then it goes into maybe an experienced collector, but maybe just kind of, semi-experienced. They haven't been around too long. Okay, well, and they think it's real. All right, so now it's in the market, and it's kind of mixing in, getting shifted around, and it could go to all these people, and now you're just flooding the market with, all these fakes, and they're just kind of sneaking in. And that's what you don't want, because then it gets real tricky. You have people doing trades and all that, it just turns into a mess. So it's best to also report, when you know for a fact that this is somebody that's selling fakes, try to just shut it down, right off the bat, nip it in the butt. So that way we can stop, that from happening to other people.
So let's say I'm a new collector and I do what you advise me to do, and I go into the groups and I kind of look around and see who knows what they're talking about. And I make friends with somebody and I make a purchase off of them. Now I have the promo in my hand. How is there a way that I could tell that this person that I thought knew what he was talking about really does know what he's talking about? Is there a way that I could inspect this promo that would decipher the difference between a really, really, really good copy and an original promo?
Well, it's funny because, there's different eras of promo photos, which we touched on. So 80s is almost 100%, other than the 8.25 by 11 photos. Those are, a little bit larger. Those are primarily almost all color, and they're just about almost all cardstock, when they come in that size. But all the 8x10s from the 80s, most of them are glossy photo paper. But you want to make sure. It's funny. My wife makes fun of me all the time when I do the smell test. I do the smell test because that truly, you can smell the 80s on an old vintage promo photo. I'm serious. I will open the package and I can sometimes smell it before I pull it out. I'm like, oh, that's from the 80s. And then I'll pull it out because I know what an old vintage photograph smells like. I know what it smells like. And dealing with Steve Taylor and Tom Buchanan and selling all these originals for them over the years, I'm handling thousands of promo photos direct from the photographers that took them. And it's the same exact smell, the same exact feel. So it just adds to what, my initial thoughts were. And it proves that is indeed what you're looking for. So I know exactly what to look for. So you have to, you got to do the smell test. But when it comes to cardstock promos, obviously those don't have the 80s smell because most of the cardstock you're in the 90s. So it doesn't have that vintage smell. Cardstock doesn't really have much of a smell at all. But if you get a cardstock and it's almost waxy, like there's a wax texture to it, that's a fake, because cardstock's not going to feel like that. Cardstock is usually a very nice light gloss. I'm talking super light gloss. It's not photo paper. It's a nice firm cardstock, but it's got a little bit of shine to it. But obviously somebody can still make a copy of that. So sometimes you'll see real heavy cardstock, like just real heavy and perfect. You know what I mean? And it's too firm. If I'm explaining that correctly, but it's just like, noticeable on the other side of things. It's just too firm. And you're like, no, this isn't an original, And when it comes to WCW photos, early 90s, mid 90s, almost every single one that has the white border, those are going to be glossy photo paper. Obviously, there are also paper thin versions, which were given at autograph signings when it comes to WCW. And those are usually just a little bit bigger than an 8x10, not quite 8.5 by 11, but those paper thin varieties are still original, but you're going to know if it's original. The paper thin WCW promos are almost like a magazine page. They have that like very light gloss. They are very flimsy. It's like a piece of paper, basically, obviously, but you can tell if it's real. Where there are often, when it comes to WCW, a lot of the 8x10 WCW promo photos are sold as fakes because they're 8.5 by 11, and they're a thicker cardstock. And I get those questions all the time. Hey, is this real? No, because WCW didn't make 8.5 by 11, of those superstars, like those promos. So no, those don't exist. And number two, they were photo paper. They weren't a thick cardstock. So when it comes to WCW, you're looking for either that super thin, lightly glossed, almost like magazine page, paper thin, which again, those were specifically for like auto signings and stuff like that, or you're looking for the glossy photo paper. And again, we're talking right now just about the white border WCW promo photos. So those aren't going to be available in 8.5 by 11 or 8.25 by 11. Now, as you went into the 2000s for WCW, actually more like 1999, they too switched from a glossy photo paper to a cardstock. So those are going to be primarily cardstock once you get into that era, towards the end, right to the end of 2001. When they closed. But and even with those are pretty simple to tell if they're real or not. They're cardstock, but they're not heavy. You know what I mean? They're a thin cardstock. They're very light when you're holding it up. There's no watermark on the back of any of them, the cardstock. Also with the glossy photo paper WCW promos, almost I'd say 99% of them, there's going to be no watermark on the back. So for WCW, there were just a selected few that did have a watermark. There are a couple Flairs, a couple Hogans. I want to say a couple Macho Mans, usually all color. And there was a certain company that they did use genuinely, and it was I don't have it in front of me, but it was like 3 letters, AFA or AGA or something like that. And those are legit. That is a company that they used, but again, only for literally a dozen promos or less, but everything else, it's got to be a white back when it comes to WCW, just pure white. No Fujifilm. Fujifilm is the big no, especially with WWF. There's never been Fujifilm for a watermark when it comes to WWF. So if you ever, I get that question all the time, hey, this says Fujifilm, but watermark is okay, right? And it's like, well, watermark is okay in some instances with WWF promo photos, but it's when there is a watermark, it's always Kodak. Always Kodak. And there's no exceptions with WWF. So some of the glossy photos from the 80s with WWF, there are a selected few that do have the Kodak watermark on the back, and that's accurate. That's fine. That's the company that they used. But again, you just don't want those Xeroxed copies that are very waxy or have a Fujifilm or some other brand name on the back, or if there's like a stamp type of thing on the back where it's a strip that goes all the way up, those are not original. So definitely want to look out for that. And but yeah, there's just so many different kinds of promo photos, to look out for. But WCW had those very small promo photos. I think they were 5 by 7 roughly. So there are a bunch of those from the early days, kind of Flair, Sting, and then they moved on to the 8 by 10s, which I said are glossy photos. And then they moved on to the cardstock. And then
now,
with
Joe,
WCW,
can folks find that information on your website at allaccessentertainment.com?
Yeah, so we do have a section. It's just click on promo photos, and that's at allaccessentertainment.com. So right at the top right corner, just click promo photos. It's still being created as we speak, that section. So not everything is up there, but there are reference photos to look at. There is a lot of information up there already, and there'll be a lot more information added over the next month or two. So there'll be
all access is 2 X's, right? Not C.
Exactly. All Access Entertainment with 2 X's.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And then when it like I said, WCW, but then WWF again, those are going to be photo paper, glossy in the 80s, and the only ones that aren't in the 80s are the 8.25 by 11, and those are almost all color, 99.9% when they come in that size are going to be color, and those are cardstock. But those all have a white back. There's no watermark on those. Actually, there's never a watermark on the 8.25 by 11 size. So if you see that, you just automatically know not real. And then obviously, as you get into the 90s, the early 90s, the mid 90s, there are actually several promos that have the Kodak watermark on the back, which is fine. I believe just about every single one of them, if not all of them, are black and white. So it's a lot of the black and white photos that have that. And then obviously it goes into cardstock as you get into the 90s as well, more so cardstock than the glossy photos. So cardstock, same thing. You want a white back. You don't want anything on the back. They're very light, well, they're very light in the late 90s. So 90, 96, 97, 98, 99, they're pretty light. As you get into the 2000s, like 03, 04, they do become a firmer cardstock. So they are a little firmer, more sturdy, but they're not like super thick. They're not heavy. But you can tell that they're just a little more girth to them. But again, white back only.
Great that we have all that information up there in that storage unit of yours from Professional Wrestling, and put that on the website for those new collectors to be able to go to, so that when they get a promo in a certain category, they can go to your website and be able to qualify it a little easier by looking up some of the statistics for that time period for their promo, and know, I guess, with a little bit more confidence that what they purchased was indeed an original.
Yeah. And it might seem overwhelming at first because there are so much, different types of promos to learn about. But once you get the gist of it all and you start looking at all of them, you learn that it's pretty easy. You know what to look for. And, another instance of copies that I've seen, people copying the cardstock mid to late 90s promos. I've seen some copies. They're very good, but they are copies. And again, what actually helps with that is the smell test. And the smell test with the 90s promos is if they're a copy, you can smell the machine that made them. I mean, they smell like they literally smell like like they were just printed off, hot off the press. You know what I mean? And obviously that's not the case. They're 25 years old, but it's a very strong printer smell. And so if you smell that, you're like, well, that's strange, but that's what's happening. Some people are making, brand new ones, and that's why they smell so strong. And they have a white back because they're using the same type of material to try to trick people. But, another thing that sucks is like some of the people that do virtual signings are using some of the actual promo shots as photo options and printing them out in like cardstock form. So you're getting what looks to a new person, exactly like a promo photo. It's a white back, it's cardstock, it's a clear image, but it's not a promo photo. You know what I mean? It's they're making 500 copies for a virtual signing, and that is hard. That's the problem. So not everybody's going to be able to figure that out. So hopefully by seeing this video, you'll at least be able to kind of look for those little tiny things that may help,
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. And then another thing I'd like to talk about is you have the Vince McMahon piece. It's a full signature autographed ticket. Let's see it.
Oh yeah, sure. This was from the 1995 WWF Hall of Fame, which I believe was Hogan's year. This is a full ticket, and it has Vince McMahon's full signature on there. That is PSA DNA certified, and I'll give that a nice quick look there, close up. This was acquired from King Collectibles, Bruen, who is another amazing collector and vendor in the memorabilia community. This was before he had King Collectibles. I actually ended up purchasing this off of eBay. But this is PSA DNA certified. And then I don't know who wrote this in the back, but somebody wrote Vince McMahon in the back there on the back of the ticket.
Yeah.
That's also back there as well. I'm assuming that that's not Vince. I don't think that's his handwriting.
No.
But yeah, this is it. This is also an exhibition piece from the Basement of Champions.
Awesome. And for those who aren't familiar with Brian, he was one half of Super Friends, which was another company that were very, trustworthy over the years, and now he's doing his own thing, which is awesome. So yeah, definitely another guy in the hobby that you can trust.
Absolutely.
And he sells a lot of high-end pieces. Now you got to pick a piece there from your daughter, which is one level above the Basement of Champions, and obviously way higher than that, when it comes to what it means, meaning. But this piece is from your home. Let's see it.
This is the only autograph in my entire collection. And $1 Million Man would say everybody's got a price, right? This is the one piece in my collection that I wouldn't let go for any amount of money ever. And it stays above the Basement of Champions. It stays in my dining room where I eat every day, and I get to see it. This is a not PSA DNA certified because it was a witnessed autograph from my daughter, who got this card or this blank painter's I forget what they call it, canvas, and she painted this for me when she was I think she was about 10 years old, and it's just been my favorite autograph. Her name is Kayleen, and it's been my favorite autograph ever since I laid eyes on it. Some would say it was the reason why I got into handwriting and autographs to begin with. I would watch my daughter draw, and when they're little, they draw stick figures. They write their name very sloppy. But I got to see her handwriting progress over the years, and I remember seeing her write her name like that at a very young age, and I was thinking, wow, she really came a long way since the chicken scratch. So I've always admired her handwriting. I admire handwriting in general, but this was a very special moment for me. I remember when she painted it. I remember when she gave it to me, and it'll always be with me. This will be the one autograph that I will be buried with. It's my favorite.
That's awesome. Very nice. Doesn't get any better than that.
Thank you.
You also have an awesome dual sign piece, if you want to show us that. Little Frenchie Martin action along with the late Dino Bravo.
Sure. So this piece came from another very distinguished collector, somebody I would say who has the largest collection of signed anything that I've ever encountered, Scott Ferenzi. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but this came from his collection. Yeah, he was a photographer for the longest time. This photo was a blown-up fan photo. I don't know if Scott took this photo. I don't think he took this photo. But this is dual signed by Dino Bravo down there, right by the leg, and then Frenchie Martin up at the top there. Let's see if I can get Frenchie in there for you.
That's
Frenchie.
awesome.
Yeah, and Dino. Yeah, these two are really hard to come by. Dino Bravo's autograph is sort of small and not so complicated. So there are some autographs out there to watch out for when it comes to Dino Bravo, because he is a highly sought after wrestler. Obviously, he met an untimely demise. I believe it was in '93. He passed away. So his autograph is not out there so much. He didn't sign so much. But to have it dual signed with Frenchie for me means a lot, because that's how I knew Dino Bravo. I always knew him with Frenchie Martin. So this piece came directly from the Ferenzi collection and went into the Basement of Champions and is currently an exhibition piece there.
Awesome. Very nice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember if you have it or not, but do you have something from Professor Elliot Marin?
I do. Do you want me to go grab it?
Sure, let's do it.
All right. I forgot about this too. This is a multi-signed Vince McMahon Sr. piece.
Wow. Oh, yes. I vaguely remember when you had gotten this.
Yeah, this was from Jake. This was donated to the Basement of Champions from a gentleman named Jake, one of the most generous men I've ever met in my life. He donated this to me, and he wrote me a letter about my recently deceased father, and I wrote him a letter back, and that's a copy of the letter.
Wow.
And this is the certification letter. Yeah.
Can you tell us all who's on that piece?
Sure. So let me see if I can center it for you.
I'll widen the shot as well.
So there's Vince McMahon up top. I don't know. Can you see him clearly, or you want me to zoom in a little?
No, it's perfect.
Okay. So that's Vince McMahon Sr. along with Bob Backlund. Let's see. Tony Atlas is on there. Larry Zbyszko. Dominic DeNucci. Pat Patterson. Tony Gurria. Ernie Ladd. Gary Capetta's on there. Larry Sharp, Ken Patera, and Jose Estrada Sr.
Wow. That's unbelievable. I mean, I would, in my opinion, if you were to ask me who is the rarest of autographs, I would have to say, even above Andre, it's got to be Vince McMahon Sr.
He's a tough one to come by.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. That's one that you just don't see often.
If Vince Jr. ever comes out for a signing, he's going to be signing this, no doubt.
Oh, man, imagine that, father and son.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, there's an autograph on the back that nobody can identify, and I've given it to many experts, and nobody can identify whose it is. And I don't think I've sent it to you. I'll have to send it. So Professor Marin, I have some of his Polaroids. This is one of them.
Oh, yes.
This is Bundy and Bobby the Brain Heenan in the ring. And he was a very organized man with his collection. So this is how we were able to tell it belongs to Professor Marin.
Yep.
He had his information on the back, and he was a big Bobby Heenan fan. I think they were very good friends. And this one, of all of Professor Marin's stuff I have, this is my favorite of his collection. This is addressed to my friend the Professor, Bobby the Brain Heenan, an original promo photo.
Yeah, if you ask me, I would say that's, in general, that's probably the nicest Bobby Heenan promo that there is that was ever released, you know?
Oh, God, yeah. 100%. I got this for a song and a dance.
Yeah.
I happened to be on one of Andrew's lives. I think it was on a Tuesday, and nobody was there. And this was an auction piece. And, like I said, I can't give Andrew enough of credit for helping me build my collection. He really sold a lot of great pieces. But yeah, this was Professor Marin's.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I got a funny story. Professor Elliot Marin would call my house regularly. My number was given to him from wrestling historian Tom Burke. And a lot of people don't know Elliot Marin. He wasn't a fan. He was in the business. You know, he was a part of the business. He knew all these guys. He did all kinds of, odd jobs within the wrestling world. I actually interviewed wrestling historian Tom Burke recently for an episode of the podcast. So that'll be coming out soon. And he does talk about Professor Elliot Marin and kind of like, a little bit of his background. So I definitely encourage everybody to check that out. But he would call me once a month, roughly, and ask me trivia questions. And I'm like, who is this guy? I had no idea who he was. And he had a very distinctive voice, He's like, "Hi, I'm Professor Elliot Marin," and that's what he sounded like. And I didn't know at the moment that Tom Burke gave him my contact. So I see this New York number, and it just keeps calling and calling, and I'm like, "Man, who is this?" So I answer it, and it's Professor Elliot Marin, and he just starts asking me trivia right off the bat. And I looked forward to. I got a little nervous because I often didn't know the answers to his trivia, even though I consider myself a wrestling historian, because a lot of it was long before my days of being on Earth. So so a lot of it I just I didn't know because it was long before my time. So I would often get some of the questions wrong, and you could smell the disappointment in the air, because he was putting me to the test. But I'm like, I just don't know. I'm sorry. But it was always fun because I knew, okay, it's been about a month, so Professor should be calling, and he would call, and it was kind of cool. It was just something to look forward to, and it was very unique, and to hear from him. And as time went on, obviously I would learn a little bit more about him and who he was. But and then eventually Tom obviously told me, hey, yeah, I gave him your contact. But it was cool to hear from him. And unfortunately, he became ill. He passed away. He had a massive collection, from what I hear, not just photos, but I mean, just he saved everything. So I don't know what happened. I know they had a huge estate sale. I remember I was at work when the promo photo portion of the sale was picked up by, I don't know, these two gentlemen. I don't even know who they are. I don't think they're collectors that you would know. They just happen to be the guys selling, the estate sale stuff. And they must have been doing it in one of the groups, or, yeah, I mean, that's how I must have found them. But, it was Professor Elliot Marin estate sale, and they were selling original promo photos, $5, $10, $15. $15 might have been the most, if I remember correctly. I mean, they were like unbelievably cheap. And I'm seeing this happen as I'm checking my phone real quick at work, but I'm not on break. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't do this right now, So I couldn't partake in it. I immediately went on break like 10 minutes later, just so I could get in on this. And all the good stuff had already gone. Now, obviously, a lot of it had reached other sellers and was resold for a lot more in some cases. But just seeing those pieces for $5, $10, and $15, and almost all of them were signed. I don't know, just cool pieces of history. Most of them were personalized to the professor, which is awesome. And yeah, I don't know. They're just it's cool to own, a personal piece from such a cool character in the wrestling world. So
and we're lucky that this is not a glossy and it didn't fall into the hands of someone that might have Pec 12'd it, right? That's why I like personalization.
Exactly. Right. That's a perfect example.
Yeah.
And what else do you have there on the table? I know you have a homemade piece of WrestleMania 11.
Oh, yeah. WrestleFlamia.
Yeah, let's hear all about it.
WrestleFlamia was a tribute piece that I decided to put together myself in the basement. I had found a WrestleMania 11 ticket stub on eBay. I think it may have been like $100 in 2020 or 2021. And I bought it because I knew Lawrence Taylor was doing a signing with Fitterman within a couple of weeks. So it was actually already encased. So I had to very carefully crack open the slab without damaging the ticket to be able to get that ticket back out. So I got the ticket out of the original slab. I sent back to Beckett. I sent it into Fitterman. to have signed by Lawrence Taylor with a WrestleMania XI inscription. I received the ticket back from Fitterman, and I slipped that ticket back in the mail along with the broken slab and the certification coiner to Beckett to have it reslabbed. And I got to work while it was being certified. I took many different colors of construction paper, and I layered the construction paper based on the color to create flames. And in the center, the best thing I could find was an 8x10 on eBay of Bam Bam and Lawrence Taylor. But this was the outcome. This is called WrestleFlamia.
Look at that.
And these flames here are, like I said, the orange is all the way at the bottom. And then I didn't use any tracing. I didn't use any computers. This was all by hand. All the layering of the flames to create the flame coming up from the ticket and licking the sides where Bam Bam and Lawrence Taylor are. I know the light's shining on the computer, but I'll show you the ticket up a little closer if I can.
Wow.
Here's Bam Bam and Lawrence Taylor on a WrestleMania 11 stub ticket. And this I believe to be also a one of one. I don't see anything else out there with a Bam Bam's signature on a WrestleMania 11 ticket. And the frame itself took me, it was about 30 hours of work.
Wow. Well, it shows. I mean, it's looks first class all the way. So
thank you. Yeah, this was definitely a labor of love. I have a couple of other custom frames out there. I think I've done 6 or so custom frames like this for some folks in the memorabilia community who asked me to make some custom frames. I made a Ladies of the Macho Man huge custom frame. I think it was poster size. I think it was 2x3. Ladies of the Macho Man, and really it was just I had the 3 stars on his tights, the 3 white stars, and surrounded by the 3 white stars, and the orange tights were autographed photos of the women that performed valet services for Macho Man Randy Savage. Wow. Yeah, that was a great frame too. But yeah, there was a couple other ones. I did that one for Kevin Nasta. But yeah, that I have to get back into that. I enjoyed doing that back when I had a lot more patience, I guess.
Yeah. Well, excluding your daughter's piece, if you had to pick one, you can only pick one piece. The rest got to go. What's the piece that you're running out with?
The Andre.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I'm running out with the Andre. In my opinion, aside from the fact that it's a PSA 8 autograph of Andre, aside from the fact that he didn't strike the A, which is just a severe amount of provenance for me, aside from the fact that it's on a 1987 original promo, same year as WrestleMania 3, aside from the clarity and the beauty of the image and the perfect positioning of the promo itself, Andre the Giant is going to become a fable as the years pass by. You're going to see he's going to get taller and taller and taller and bigger and bigger and bigger. And, I think 100 years from now, parents are going to be telling their kids, hey, eat your vegetables, or Andre the Giant's going to get you. I feel like he's going to grow in that respect where he's going to become a fable, a story. So to have anything that he actually signed, I believe is going to be something worth passing down generation to generation. I don't think there's anybody that has any sort of dollar amount that could ever tug this from my firm grip. I'm not saying it's not for sale. It could be for sale because just like Ted says, everybody does have a price. And there might be somebody out there that shows me that they love it more than I do and proves it with their wallet or their purse. That's fine. But other than that, it's such a huge part of a connection to me for professional wrestling, huge connection to me for the future of professional wrestling. They've already had multiple documentaries with him. They had the Andre the Giant Battle Royal every year at WrestleMania. He's going to be a huge part of the legacy of the WWE no matter where it goes. So that would be the piece that I run out with. It currently, I brought it out for this podcast, but it sits in a bank deposit box.
Yeah.
So, it's not something that I ever see me, parting ways with. But I have a lot of those. God continues to bless me in a way where I don't have to sell a lot of these items. But when the day comes, I have a couple more here that I brought up from the Basement of Champions to show. I'll give you a quick. A quick view of some of them. This is a wonderful. I love the robe, the Big John Stud original promo with the big signature there. That's got a Beckett full letter of authenticity. The promo's in fantastic condition. I don't see this promo too often on the market. It exists, but I don't see it too often. This is a connection for me in that at my grandmother's house in Staten Island, when I really was starting to develop my love for professional wrestling, it would be on Saturday mornings in the summer when my grandmother was still sleeping. I'd pop on the TV and I'd wait for wrestling to come on. And before wrestling came on and after wrestling was over, usually I would see these four women on the TV. And this is the Golden Girls on a TV guide. On the back here is an old Cutlass ad for a Cutlass, which is cool. And this is a quad signed by all four of the ladies to Harold, which I love. I love the personalization. They introduced me to comedy, which I also am a huge fan of comedy as well. So this is a great piece for the Basement of Champions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Penta signed, European magazine, wrestling magazine by Stone Cold Steve Austin and Shawn Michaels. This is a Beckett witnessed piece. Mike Tyson kind of scribbled over everybody else's autograph there, but he is on there, along with Hulk Hogan, who's there in the corner, and Ken Shamrock, World's Most Dangerous Man inscription at the bottom. I love this piece very much because it has one magazine with 3 different champions from 3 different sports on the magazine. You got the UFC, you got the WBA, and the WWE. Awesome. So, this is a wonderful magazine. I worked hard to get those autographs. This is also a Penta signed DX piece. Everybody on the magazine signed: Badass Billy Gunn, Triple H, X-Pac, China, and Road Dogg. China's there at the bottom.
Wow.
Yeah. And this is also a JSA magazine. The guy who sold this to me, we actually reconnected, and he loves this piece. He's the one that got it signed, and I love having that sort of provenance to know that that's out there. This one is really special. This has got Davey Boy Smith and Dynamite Kid on a WWF program, I should say. What a wonderful image with the American flag and the British flag draping it, and the two of them with the tag team champions, championship belts, and just a dual sign. I mean, this to me is the epitome of the British Bulldogs. I know there's original promos out there that exist, but this image, I just love it. I think it really sums them up really well. The only thing missing is Matilda, but this is a great piece. On the back here, interestingly enough, I never opened this frame, but for you, Joe, I'm going to open it because it's interesting. On the back of this, program, which the program itself is not in good condition, but on the back of the program is a Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff signature.
Oh, wow.
Which is on the letter. And then inside the program, it's actually pulled apart, the whole thing pulled apart, is the Iron Sheik there at the bottom.
Oh, very nice.
So that's on the letter as well. But that's something when Paul passed away, I turned the program around, and I had Paul on the front of the frame for a while. because in my opinion, Paul was the absolute most underrated wrestler in sports entertainment history.
Yeah.
I'm dying to find something with him on an original promo, but that is an exercise in futility in many cases. Every swinging dick that was in the ring for the first WrestleMania ever. This is an important piece to me. I knew when I first started collecting that I wanted to get a WrestleMania 1 complete piece someday, somehow, some way. I even got the referee, Pat Patterson, on there. You got Hogan, you got Paul Orndorff, you got this is Pat Patterson in the corner, Mr. T, who recently just did that signing, and Roddy Piper. And that's everybody that was in the ring. Obviously, I don't think Muhammad Ali was in the ring, but I think he was ringside. But no, he's not on this piece. But this is a really important one. I saw one other one of those exist outside of mine, and I think the last one I want to show is the piece that is not a wrestling piece. It's a music piece. It's the piece that you first see when you open up the Basement of Champions. It'll be the first face you see because he's right there at the top of the awning where it kind of tapers down into the basement. There's a little bit of a wall there. And this is the first face when you walk into the Basement of Champions. And this is old Satchmo on one of his old promo photos. And it is signed to my boy, Alfredo Antonio. Always glad to dig you, kid. Old Satchmo Louis Armstrong.
Wow.
This particular photo signed to Alfredo Antonio. He was the proprietor of the Hot Club in Torino, Italy, which was a jazz club that was responsible for westernizing jazz.
Wow.
And Louis Armstrong was one of the people who performed at that club to contribute majorly to bringing jazz into the West. So this piece was signed to the club owner from Louis Armstrong, and it hung in the Hot Club in Torino for many years before it ended up in the Basement of Champions. Wow. As far as importance, this weighs up there to, possibly being a representation of the westernization of jazz, the genre itself. And I just thought it would be such a cool entrance. I mean, it's such a cool photo because I don't think Louis smoked. I don't think he smoked cigarettes. I think he did that just for the promo photo. These are the ones that he would sign for people when they would ask for a signature. He'd print these out. He'd carry these with him, and he'd have them signed. But I'm still hard pressed to find any of these other photos signed anywhere else. This came directly from the Hot Club in Torino, Italy. So this also has a full letter of authenticity and is a wonderful, wonderful piece. I have so many more, Joe. We might need 10 or 12 parts to this. So
that's okay. We can do this again.
Yeah, I have more. I think I've shown everything on the table, but the basement is really where everything lives. So
awesome. Well, It's a pleasure to have you. Why don't you tell us, the fans that don't know, maybe somebody's watching part 2 first and they missed part 1 and they didn't even see that it was on there. So for the fans that haven't tuned into both yet, tell the fans, where could they find Basement of Champions, Facebook, Tommy Two's, let's hear it all.
Tommy Two's Basement of Champions has over 100,000 followers on all platforms. We're not on TikTok yet, but we're working on it. On Instagram, you can look us up at T2T Basement of Champions. Facebook, Tommy Two's Certified Basement of Champions is the page. If you want to check us out on our memorabilia group, you can check us out at Tommy Two's Basement of Champions Memorabilia, buy, sell, and trade. And then we also own Pro Wrestling Junkies, which is a page that has a lot of old footage from some of the old days, some of the territory matches that you might not be able to see anywhere else. Even some of the newer stuff we put on that page. We have a group attached to that page as well, a small memorabilia group attached to that page as well. So we're on Instagram and Facebook. Check us out, I think that it would be best to also mention that you should check out Promo Photomania, because that's where Tommy Twos goes for all his original promo needs. That is the resource of original promos on Facebook. I didn't even mention my poster, which has 120 autographs on it. I'm going to bring that for next time. And I know one of the other great collectors in poster collectors in the memorabilia group, the memorabilia world, Eddie Garcia. He has got some of the greatest posters you'll ever see. And it just reminds me of him. And I would love to get some of his posters on your podcast as well. He's a wonderful guy. He's a fellow Cuban. So, but yeah, you could check us out at Tommy Two's Basement of Champions, all the socials except for TikTok, but we're working on that. And we'd love to have you. It's a safe place to buy, sell, and trade wrestling memorabilia. We do our best to keep it safe. And we offer anybody who's doing a deal on our page, we offer any admin services to review your deal to make sure that you're getting a good deal. We have T2T trusted sellers that have a badge on our page that we have vetted and we have done background checks on, and we know personally and we know well where you can get a money back guarantee for purchasing with them. So, we're doing our best to stay ahead of the curve as far as scammers, as far as those folks who are trying to rip people off. We want to build that community within our four walls so that folks can trust us, trust our brand, to know that if they're purchasing in the Tommy Two's Basement of Champions arena, that there's a good chance that they're going to be making a safe transaction.
Very nice. And fans can follow me on Facebook, New England Fan Fest page on Facebook. Also, New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame page on Facebook as well. We have All Axxess Entertainment on Facebook, and that's Axxess with 2 X's. And we also have the All Axxess Entertainment Podcast, brand new page on Facebook as well with 2 X's. So, of course, our website, allaccessentertainment.com, and that's Axxess with 2 X's as always. The All Axxess Entertainment Podcast can be found on Spotify, All Axxess Podcast, and of course on YouTube, All Axxess Entertainment. And again, that is Axxess with 2 X's. So you're going to get used to that because you're going to see lots of content coming. We've got a whole host of individuals coming, from David Otunga to Ken Kennedy to great collectors and wrestling stars of the New England area and beyond. There's going to be tons of actors. We're having a sci-fi week with in-depth, deep dive interviews with several of the Star Wars actors. Really looking forward to what we got. A lot in the works for All Axxess Entertainment Podcast. So stay tuned for Tommy Twos, Mr. Tom Hernandez, for the Basement of Champions. I'm Joseph Bruen. This has been the All Axxess Entertainment Podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and we will see you guys in the next episode.